Well, good day. So, for today's video, we're gonna talk about the first cartoon appearance of everybody's favorite Stone Age baby. I'm talking about Pebbles Flintstone. So, alright, let's go.
Yeah! So, we start off at Brick Boulder's gym, where Fred and Bonnie are working out. They are pumping iron. They are proving that they can bench, bro. But there's good reason for it. It's because Fred is going to be a father really soon. And Bonnie is going to be the child's godfather. So they're just working out some nervous energy that they have, anticipating this baby's arrival. And they need to get in shape for the baby as well, You have to make sure that you can lift a baby that is between 5 to 10 pounds. So you gotta work out now. After that, Fred meets Wilma at Dr. Rockpile's office for her pregnancy checkup. Make sure everything's all good. And with all of these things together, everything is great! Fantastic! Wilma and baby are healthy. Fred has worked off some of his nervous energy. The world is the happiest when Fred Flintstone is calm and relaxed. Namaste. Meanwhile, at the Flintstone home, Wilma tells Fred that the doctor stated the baby should be coming any day now, which completely freaks Fred out! He's gone into full panic mode! The baby's coming soon! The baby's coming soon! How did he not know? Can he not count to 9? As in 9 months? The usual time of a pregnancy? If it's been almost 9 months, you can expect a baby, Fred. This shouldn't be hard, but apparently it is. And because Fred is going so ballistically helpful with Wilma, making sure she's completely resting, she's not lifting a finger to do anything, just lie there, stay comfortable, and wait for baby. As Fred does everything except stay calm. Calm like Wilma. She's the one who's gonna have a kid right away, and she's kind of taking it pretty good here. But not Fred. Not even during the middle of the night, like he's too wound up to even sleep. This is foreshadowing disaster. Even Betty can see it, So she's pretty worried about Fred. Well, I guess more worried about Wilma and how Fred will be when he's completely a nervous wreck. But still, worried for Fred. And she comes up with a really good idea. She figures the best way for Fred to relax is for him to do some practice runs of getting Wilma ready to go and then into the car and into the hospital. If he has that whole sequence down pat, that really should help him calm down. So Barney pretends to be Wilma. They hop in the car, they go to the hospital. They're actually speeding, so they get pulled over by a cop. And this cop doesn't think that Barney is a really good-looking woman. Which I guess is all opinion, but that's kind of rude for the dude to say. Nonetheless, these trial runs are a success. Fred is calmed down. The whole run from the house, getting pulled over and getting to the hospital, only took 5 minutes and 16 seconds. So when Wilma is ready to go, Fred completely knows the drill, and things will go nice and smooth. Because, as we say, the world is the happiest when Fred Flintstone is calm and relaxed. Suddenly, Wilma tells Fred that, we need to go to the hospital now because this baby is on the way. And, well, wouldn't you know it, all of that training, all of those practice runs, just out the window. If you thought that Fred was crazy with nervous energy before, well, he is now practically insane. It's like he's popped a whole bunch of uppers and downers and all-arounders at the same time. He's gone completely loony trying to get Wilma to the hospital. And a whole comedy of errors ensues. Fred takes off to the hospital, things are going good. He's got the overnight bag, he's on the way. Just one small problem, he forgot Wilma. So back he goes again to get Wilma, but it turns out that he grabbed Dino. Does he not know what his own wife looks like? So Wilma is pretty fed up, understandably. So she gets Barney to take her to the hospital, which he does, and to which the admitting nurse believes that Barney is the father. luckily things work out. Fred finally makes it to the hospital. He's hanging out in the waiting room with Barney. And just Barney? You would think that Betty would be there too, actually. Hey, Wilma is her best friend. Huh, what is she doing at home? Is she drinking? Maybe. But the nurse comes in to let them know that Wilma has had the baby. Everyone is healthy, everyone is happy, it's all good. So Fred and Barney go into the hospital room to meet up with Wilma, where we finally get to meet the newest member of the Flintstone family, Pebbles Flintstone. Because as Barney says, she's a pebble off the old Flintstone. Oh man, I love his laugh. And she even said her first words, which were, Abba, Dabba, Goo. No DNA test needed, hey? She is a Flintstone. And now that we finally get to meet her, that is the end of this fancy tale.
So yeah, man, maybe not the best episode ever for the Flintstones, but still pretty darn good. A bit different though, hey? Because a lot of Flintstones episodes can be really outlandish and just go into different places you never would have thought of. But this episode was kind of in a box, right? They can only do so much. It was all about Wilma about to give birth to a baby, and just getting ready for that, so you really couldn't really do too much. But within the parameters of that box, they still did, pretty good. There was that running gag with the police officer, being amazed with Fred and all of his multiple wives being pregnant. Being at the gym made sense, but it was also kind of filler. The sequence of Fred needing his blood to be taken at the doctor's was kind of filler too. But I guess all in all, in the grand scheme of things, it was still pretty funny and still pretty good. So really, it all worked out. The one thing that really blew my mind about this episode was that Fred has underclothes under his clothes. Which I guess I'm just repeating myself at this point. But underneath his spotted orange, moo-moo, he has an under-moo-moo that has pockets. I totally forgot about that. I just assumed that his orange, furry moo-moo had pockets in it. But there is so much more to Flintstone's clothing. So, of course, like any Flintstones episode, we did see Fred Flintstone completely flip out on something, practically going ballistically insane, but it was for a good cause, because, his baby is coming. But also with that, at the same time, we also see Fred doing what he does best, being a jerk to Wilma. Man, Wilma has the patience of a saint, hey? Like, jeez! As Fred states, he's like, I gotta do everything in this pregnancy. I gotta get you to the hospital. I gotta get you your clothes, blah, 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 this and that. All you gotta do is have a baby. Holy crap, hey? Classic Fred, but like, holy crap. But it's all hip because Wilma knows how to handle Fred, so that's just water off a duck's back. And then they have the blessing of a new baby daughter, Pebbles. So this was one of those mini game changers for the Flintstones, having a new character and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like how the Flintstones introduced Gazoo, which was another game changer, Although with Pebbles, a game changer that was more based in reality. So it's pretty awesome to see. So if you haven't checked out this episode yet, I say you do so. But with that, we do have some more behind the scenes kind of things with the Flintstones, with the baby and all that kind of stuff going on over here.
So yes indeed, hey? Pebbles Flintstone. So how did she come to be? Okay, well, I guess we know how she came to be and all that. But like, outside of the show, how was this character created? Well, let's take a look. So for quite some time, Hanna-Barbera had a concept of Fred and Wilma having a child. Expand the cast of the show. They pretty much had this concept since the beginning of this Flintstones TV show. Hanna-Barbera teamed up with Little Golden Books to produce a book called Hanna-Barbera's The Flintstones, which featured Fred, Wilma, and their son, Fred Jr., going to the beach. This book was first produced in 1961, which would have been halfway through season 1 of the Flintstones. So when it was time to make a Flintstones baby episode in season 3, well, they already had the concept of the kid, so they decided to implement Fred Jr. on the show. And that was that. Or was it? Joseph Barbera got a phone call from the man in charge of Flintstone marketing, Ed Justin. Ed just so happened to be talking to the president of the Ideal Toy Company. So they said, "Hey, Hanna-Barbera, just so you know, baby girl dolls sell a hell of a lot more than baby boy dolls. In fact, we don't even make baby boy dolls. That's how much they don't sell. You're gonna miss out on a whole lot of toy sales, where Fred and Wilma have a boy and not a girl." I don't know why I made him sound like a mobster, I'm sorry. I'm sure he's a real nice guy. That voice just popped in my head. Nonetheless, Joseph Barbera listened to him and he's like, man, you know what? This guy's actually right. Especially at that time in the 60s. Girl dolls for young girls, that was one of the biggest selling toys. At least at the time. So right there and then, Joseph Barbera changed the plan. Fred and Wilma will now be having a baby girl. And her name will be Pebbles. As he said, a pebble off the old Flintstone. Quite the name, Pebbles. It is a pretty cute and kind of cuddly name for a cave person baby, But how do they come across the name Pebbles? Well, mostly, quite possibly, because of Flintstone's continuity errors. So we know that Wilma's maiden name is Schlaghopel. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But prior to that point, in a handful of older episodes, we learned that originally her maiden name was Pebble. And this was mostly in episodes where Wilma ran into some of her old high school friends, and they would say, "Wilma Pebble? Is that you?" To which Wilma would reply, "Oh no, I'm not Wilma Pebble anymore. I got married." So the Pebble name was there and it was already linked to Wilma, so if you just take that link and give it to her baby, boom, Pebbles. Why they changed her maiden name to Schlaghopel later on? I don't know. So, with all of that, that's all good. The writers now have the new character as a baby girl. They have her name figured out. Now they just have to implement this character being in the show. And from this point in the show, the Flintstones actually did quite a number of firsts in animated television history. So, for one, which is actually a major cartoon first, is when they announced that Wilma was pregnant, which they did in 3 episodes prior to this featured episode, in an episode called Mother-in-Law's Visit. This was the first time in cartoon history that a main character was pregnant and was shown as pregnant. Also in our featured episode, you've seen Fred and Wilma sharing a larger bed instead of having 2 separate single beds. This was actually the first time that a cartoon married couple was shown sharing the same bed. Also for Wilma's pregnancy lasting 4 episodes? So that was the first story arc that actually happened in an animated TV series. Instead of the usual episodical story, which is just a one and done, and may or may not reference a previous episode, this was actually a 4-episode story of Wilma announcing she's pregnant and then getting to having a baby. And all the things parents do to get ready for the baby in the middle episodes. Also, Wilma giving birth to a baby. That also is a cartoon first, and no, we were not in the delivery room, thank God. That would be a pretty traumatic episode for the kids, so we just hung out with Fred and Barney in the waiting room. So quite the historic little event. So for the Flintstones, which is technically a children's cartoon, showing a pregnancy on the show and alluding to the whole childbirth and all that stuff in it may seem a bit odd for a kid's show. Usually they would have something like a stork delivering the baby instead, like you've seen in other cartoons previous to this, but it does make sense that a pregnancy happened on the Flintstones. The original inception of the show was that it would actually be an animated sitcom targeted towards adults. And the show slowly turned into a kid show because kids really liked it, and like who doesn't like the Flintstones? So in the 3rd season, it was still technically targeted towards adults, and that's why you did see a pregnancy and not a stork. So once the Mother-in-Law's Visit episode was released and the announcement of Wilma being pregnant was made, the episode ended with a voiceover declaring a contest to name the baby. Actually, I'm getting some conflicting reports of whether it was name the baby or guess the weight of the baby. Either way, there was a guess the something about the baby contest. The winner would receive a round-the-world trip and $2,000 in spending cash. Which is pretty wild when you consider that $2,000 in 1963 is the equivalent to around $20,000 today. And a lucky man from Florida guessed correctly. This dude actually won an around-the-world trip and the equivalent of $20K. For guessing something about a cartoon baby. But still, finding out that Wilma is pregnant and she's gonna have a baby, that was a pretty big event. An event which you could say was influenced by the TV show I Love Lucy. So in real life, Lucille Ball was pregnant with her husband's baby, Desi Arnaz. So instead of stopping the show, they just went with a pregnancy storyline. And it was huge, right? Because indeed, everyone loves Lucy. And eventually she gave birth to Desi Arnaz Jr. Of course, Desi Arnaz played Lucy's husband on the show as well, Ricky Ricardo, and he was quite the bundle of nervous energy and flipping out, much similar to how Fred was with Wilma being pregnant. So quite the homage to Lucy. So just for a quick little fun throw-in that they added in the show, near the end of the show when Fred, Barney, and Wilma went to Bedrock Hospital, they focused in on 2 doctors having a conversation about conducts in hospitals and all that kind of stuff. These 2 characters were actually a parody of another ABC show called Ben Casey. And the 2 doctors from the show, Vince Edwards and Sam Jaffe, were the 2 doctors who were being parodied in this little scene. Which was kind of a random time-killing reference, but it was pretty cool, especially if you knew the reference. But indeed, that's pretty much all I got on this stuff here. It's a pretty awesome episode, right? Always joyful when a new baby comes to the family, and especially with Pebbles. This would lead to other babies on the show, most notably being Bam Bam Rubble. But that's pretty much that, quite a bit. But for all that other stuff, we'll get to it when we get to it. So with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess that's that. Also, if you're interested, I created my own comic book channel, 215 Comics. And currently, I have created my own cartoon series, The Adventures of the Density. And recently started a radio series featuring my newest character, Elastomorph, with more titles to come. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up top here to that channel, and some links at the end of the video. Yeah! Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.